in a refreshing piece that was kind of a great change of pace. Along the same lines, it's not all puppies and rainbows with this story, but it's from Amanda Cohen, who is the chef and owner of Dirt Candy in New York. And the article is all about minimum wage. So it's titled, Restaurant Owners Should Embrace the $15 Minimum Wage. And she shares a few stats of how she runs her business. She says, I barely felt this minimum wage increase. I had to raise a few of my part-time prep workers from 15 an hour to 16 or 17. And she says, my front of house workers already make between $25 and $30 an hour, and my back of house team gets paid $17 to $20 an hour. And this is all about how New York is going to raise their minimum wage to $15 an hour on January 1st of this year. Oh no, it already happened. So I hope most of you New York people are feeling the effects of that in maybe good ways, or maybe if you're a restaurant owner, you're feeling it in not so great ways. Share some stats from the New York City Hospitality Alliance, which they conducted this single survey a month before this change went into effect. And it says 76.5% of full-service restaurant respondents reduced employee hours, and 36.3% eliminated jobs in 2018 in response to the mandated wage increase. And then it says 53% of those will eliminate jobs in 2019. So be curious to hear if any of you folks are feeling the effects of that. What I thought was interesting was the fact that she took this from the lens of looking at New York City's restaurant sphere as a whole and basically saying, like, come on, guys, like we have to do better in other different ways to make sure that we can continue to attract people to her city that she loves so much and has lived in and cooked in for years now. She says, quote, apparently I am an idiot for thinking the minimum wage is just that, the bare minimum. Why would I expect my employees to give me their best if I'm giving them the minimum? I also wonder how anyone who makes more than minimum wage feels comfortable eating in a restaurant that pays its employees minimum wage. But then again, I'm from Canada and we're encouraged to think that way, end quote. I think that's a great way to look at it. I think, does that resonate with any of you? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that down below. She says, quote, recently I got introduced to a new negotiating tactic amongst young cooks. Wait until the middle of a busy shift and then threaten to walk off the line unless you get a $5 an hour raise. In the past, that kid would have been kicked out of the kitchen so fast his head would spin, but today he knows that replacements are hard to come by, so I would have to keep him on for at least a couple more days at his increased rate. As I have to pay more and more to keep workers, I'm also hit by the costs the customer will never have to see. Beyond every dollar I raise my 25-person staff's wages, I'm also paying another $35,000 per year in payroll taxes and general liability insurance, LLC insurance, unemployment insurance, and workers' comp, all of which are pegged to the size of your payroll, end quote. And I think that's a really interesting kind of dichotomy, right? Where you have the line cook who is acknowledging the state of the market and using these kind of very guerrilla negotiation tactics. And then you have the perspective of the business owner, which is like, listen, as I grow my team and as I start to increase the amount that I'm paying you guys, I'm also getting hit with a bunch more stuff on the back end. So I think, one, I would love to hear if you have a story of trying a tactic like that, if it worked out or not, because I, in all my years of working in restaurants, have never seen someone just blatantly do that kind of a request during a service. And I'm sure that there's funny stories that come along with that, and probably painful stories that come along with that. I'm not saying do that. This is not me advocating for you to be like, this is probably a smart idea. I think you should do this. No, don't do this. But if you've seen it happen or if you've done it, I'd love to hear the story because I think that's a hilarious story. But I think what I wanted to share with you, if you are an employee or if you are someone that works in a team with someone who is above you or manages the finances or you have an HR department, I think what's important to think about is the fact that you have people who are incurring costs that are more than just, oh, well, I get $17.50 an hour, or I don't work in New York City where the cost of living is so high, and so it's bullshit that they value my time at just $11.50 an hour. Yes, that was the offer. But you also have to be empathetic to the fact that the business owner has all these other expenses that come with it that cost more than $11.50 an hour, and they're getting asked to pay things from other people, whether it's the government or insurance companies or whatever. And this is all to keep the lights on, right? It's not things that you see as a benefit as an employee. This is literally required by law to open the doors. And so I think that I wish I would have known this kind of stuff, because I mean, I remember it took me maybe like 6 months of working for Thomas Keller to fully utilize my 401k plan. I didn't know what the fuck 401k was. And the fact that my employer matched a certain percentage of it, it was so stupid for me to not do that. But I got smart, and I thankfully had another colleague of mine who had Jewish parents who were much more financially sound, and they gave him that advice, and then that became something that I took advantage of. And so what I'm trying to say is I didn't have the full grasp of what was going on under the hood of a business and restaurant group that large and what was required to do that kind of stuff. And so I think that is something just to keep top of mind, and something for you to go into other negotiations with, or even if you're getting these offers where you're like, well, that's kind of not worth it for me, come to terms with what else goes along with that. Do you get benefits? Do you get investment opportunities? Do they have opportunities for growth that other places wouldn't give you? I think that it's much more than just what your hourly wage is. I say it all the time. Value isn't always just monetary, right? I do want to leave you with this article on a little bit of a quote that she talks about with New York City and the restaurant industry as a whole. She says, quote, "The biggest effect of the restaurant business's short-sightedness is the one that depresses me the most, and I don't know how it can be reversed. New York City is losing its soul. More and more restaurants here are actually restaurant concepts designed to be replicated elsewhere, not unique, one-of-a-kind dining experiences. There's nothing wrong with making money, but if that becomes the sole metric of success, then we're doomed to lose what has made us the greatest food city in North America. Failing to keep the city viable for restaurants that experiment means ceding our innovation elsewhere. New York has less and less room for young chefs with big ideas. The financial stakes are too high, so more and more menus play it safe, sticking to the familiar items because they need to appeal to the most possible customers. I moved to New York in 1992 because this city's food scene was alive and exciting and adventurous in a way nowhere else was. If I were a young chef in 2019, I would have a hard time coming up with reasons to move here at all. I can sell a beet and goat cheese salad anywhere. I don't have to pay New York City rents to peddle yet another plate of crudo," end quote. I guess there is one more quote that's kind of funny in this, and I want to piggyback on that last quote, but I do want to share this one. She says, quote, "I don't believe in a restaurant industry. An industry is regulated and has a central governing body and shared standards. We're more like a herd of drunk cats, running around in circles and peeing on the furniture. However, riding the restaurant herd of drunk cats is over and over is exhausting, so let's settle on business." The restaurant business. So, I mean, I'm a testament to this first quote, right? Talking about how you don't have to be in New York City anymore to make it. I think that's like an amalgamation of a ton of things. I don't think it's just because of minimum wage. I don't think it's just because of fast casual concepts. I think it's because also of the internet, right? Like more people are seeing food that's not burgers and fries and pizza. And so then they get excited about hearing about a place in town that does, insert cuisine type or dining style type. And so it's true. You don't have to be in New York anymore to succeed and be one of the best restaurants in your community. But I think that she does touch a little bit, and I'm not going to go too deep into it here, but she does talk a little bit about automated work. And I think it's kind of interesting. She says, "If you think robots aren't coming for your job, I wish you'd been with me when I went to a beer bar in Virginia where I swiped my card over the tap I wanted and a POS system charged me by the ounce." Basically saying bartenders are, she says, quote, "You're a bartender, ? Too bad. Those jobs will be gone." Which I think is a little bit too much fear-mongering. Talking about how you have to pay extra for the human touch. I don't think all of this is totally dead. But I think it's an interesting conversation to start, and I think that she raises a lot of really good points, and I think that we're just going to see the cost of having a human do the job go up and up and up until we hit that inflection point where the cost to have someone automated is going to be similar. I don't think it's going to be necessarily better or cheaper yet. I think we're years out from seeing that happen. I think right now it's more of a gimmick than anything else to have a robotic arm serve you a beer. I think there has to be a couple more things that happen. It's going to be interesting to see if and when an economic downturn happens, how that shakes things up, and who is able to rise through the ashes of that with automated services and products. I know this is heavy, guys. We got to keep going. We got to keep going. This is depressing conversations, but we're going to get to... The light is coming soon.